Hey all, I think I fixed my mic. Hi everyone, are we waiting for more people or should we just start? Alright, maybe we'll start. So I think we were supposed to be in on other spaces, but it got canceled or whatever happened. So maybe it's just the time for us to kind of talk more about Genius since we haven't done it for a while. And talk all things that people feel about it, how everything is going, and some things about Genius, what's working, what's not working, what people understand about it, what they don't, and maybe we can go into some of those discussions. How about that? All right, thanks for verifying my mic. I'm still battling with it. Anyway, I don't know if anybody wants to go. Kind of, if anybody has any questions, it was supposed to be more of a discussion with, I think it was Paul's Bitcoin guys or somebody, right? And they had specific questions about what Hexadus is, what Stability Pool does, what different miners do, whatever. So we're all here. So I don't know. Does anybody have any specific questions about that we can all talk about? If not, maybe some other topics that you'd like to cover. Just general chat about Genius for the time that we have here.
I guess I'm also curious about the stability pool as well. Don't know much about it. Stability pool.
Cool. All right, so I'll just kind of give you my understanding of the stability pool. Stability pool is what it is. It's just a balancing mechanism for kind of. So it works on. You kind of need to look at it both ways. It's the trader side and the miner side, right? So just like in the oil rig, you have oil pumping out of the ground. It does things underground and does things above the ground. It delivers oil on top. So stability pool is that arm, right, that goes in and out of the ground to pull the oil in and out. And it works with a specific set of algorithms to benefit both the miners and the public. So in detail, what that means is if you ever want to get a miner, and if you do not like the price on the open market because you need to go and buy Genie, for example, I don't know, 1 million Genie, let's say, you'd pay maybe $50 for it, right? Open market works on arbitrage. I am the seller, you're the buyer. I want to sell it at that price. You want to buy it at the price that I want. If I don't sell it for a while, then I'll lower the price and then you come in and buy it. And the other way around, if I have too much demand, then I raise my price and you can come in and buy it at the price that I want. So the stability pool basically calculates how many the velocity of you trying to deposit collateral meaning native tokens like Ethereum or Matic or Avalanche or Binance or BNB, right? Or anything that the grantor allowed us to trade with, for example, DAI or USDC or whatever future collateral is going to be accepted in the stability pool. And the reason for the stability pool is so that you can have more incentive to buy the miner from it as opposed to go to the open market and let's say you don't like the price of $50, you have some mechanics that says, okay, I'll sell you a miner, an advanced miner from the collateral pool for 45, right? And then you start thinking, okay, well, 45 sounds great. I'm going to come in through the stability pool, but instead of getting Genie back, stability pool asks you to lock it for 90 days, just like you would in advanced mining. So you're effectively not buying Genie, you're buying debt. The debt is a promise. It's a loan backed by your collateral you deposited for, for example, USDC for $45, and then you get 1 million Genie, but you lock it for 90 days, and that's automatic. So the stability pool says, I'll give you a better price, but you have to lock it back in and pay it back to the pool when you're done after 90 days. So while your advanced mining is working, you're working on borrowed collateral, on borrowed loan. You don't have Genie in your possession. Once you end the miner, the advanced miner, or in this case, the collateral miner, then what happens, you settle it back into the pool. Your loan is paid off, much like you would pay off your car or whatever, right? And you get a 98% of your value back at the time that you've entered those $35 or $45 or 1 million Genie minus the stability pool fee plus all the yield you would have incurred or accrued over the 90 days, right? So essentially you retrieve Genie from the stability pool, or you retrieve collateral, depending whether the trader side of the stability pool was able to come in and settle your debt and the debt of other miners in the stability pool. That's the miner part of it. The trader part of it is the part above the ground of that oil rig, right? Now, somebody may say, okay, I have 1 million Genie and I want to sell it. That person goes to Uniswap and basically sees the price would be $35 to sell it, but you'll have to pay the fee. And let's say the fee is 5%. So you're losing Genie, or you're losing incoming collateral as you sell it into the open market on the DEX, right? And instead of $35, you would get maybe 30, right? So that basically lowers the price per Genie as you sell as you sell your Genie to somebody on a DEX, on Uniswap, for example. So the stability pool, much like it works on the mining side, it has the other side of saying, okay, I'm going to give you a better price to come in and sell to me instead of going to a Uniswap and getting slippage, right? The percentage of the sale you pay to the service, to miners, to regular Ethereum miners, for example, or Uniswap itself. Okay, so you come in and you say, okay, do I have a better deal in a stable pool to sell it without any penalty, any fee? So instead of selling for $30, you get a full $35 of your DAI or USDC or whatever collateral you choose to do, like Ethereum or Matic, and you get the value of $35 back from the collateral pool. That's the trading part. So you have the mining part, you have the trading part. The stability pool is the balancing act between the two, incentivizing both the sell side and the buy side to come in and get a good deal. And the way it does it, it has internal algorithms that work on multiple counters to basically arbitrage between the two prices in a way that doesn't dump the price itself. So, for example, when miners come in, you have anyway, I can go deeper in details, but does that make sense? Like in just high picture, what stability pool is the internal DEX without fees or without open market fees, and opportunities to get either more Genie for cheaper or more collateral for cheaper, depending what side you trade, whether you trade the mining side or you trade the actual trading side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you.
Cool. And then the incentivization of somebody selling to the collateral pool and buying from the collateral pool is the dynamic of how many people actually come in to do either one of those activities, either sell or buy. So the AI part of the stability pool is the kind of like measuring the velocity of the intent. For example, if open market, so stability pool is not tied to anything on the open market. It doesn't know what the price of Genie is. It doesn't know what the price of DAI or ETH is on the open market. It doesn't use any oracles. It can't go out and basically say, the price is dumping too bad, too hard. It's decreased 10% within 1 hour. Maybe I can do something about it. It's not how it works. It's completely separated from the open market, and the only thing it needs to go by is measuring how many people show up to do an activity. So, for example, I would probably liken it to somebody sitting in the office, right, and with a large door, glass door, and a bunch of people running from one side to another of the building, and the person sitting on the inside measures that something happened outside, not by hearing what something happened or seeing it, but basically observing how many people rush from one side to another. And the same thing with stability pool. The intent of somebody selling on the open market signifies that somebody comes in and seek opportunity to sell to you. And the more people sell to you, you being the stability pool, you kind of say, okay, well, maybe there's something that's happening on the open market, and therefore a lot more people are trying to sell. Therefore, I'm going to kick my gears, so I'm going to keep my algorithms up and try to manage that influx of those participants, right, on the sell side or the buy side. And so that's how the stability pool kind of manages the velocity of the intention, not knowing what exactly happens in the open market. So when Genie, for example, hopefully we'll have a bull market, right, and runs up to X number of, whatever the price is going to be, and then maybe 100 people show up at the same time to sell. To the stability pool, that's a marker that kind of the run up is over, and price is tanking. So what it's going to do is going to slow down the rate of sale of selling to itself, right? It would take a look at the collateral. It will take a look at the first person that sells may be getting better deal, and then the second person that sells gets worse deal, and so the price of the offer declines or decays, right, until such time when it's economically unpopular to even come in and do those activities, either buying or selling, right? And once that happens, then the stability pool says, all right, I don't have anybody coming in today, so nobody wants to sell or buy. I have to do something about it, right? So I'm gonna ratchet up the price on either one of the sides, buy or sell, to incentivize the activity until such time when it's economically viable for somebody to come in and renew the selling or buying. Because if the price is low enough, there's always going to be somebody who comes in and starts buying. Or if the price is high enough, somebody will come in and start selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting setup. And so the other part of AI in Genius, aside from the stability pool, is the fact that it can measure the velocity of kind of exits or influx in the miner activity, like how many people end their miners early, or all the penalties that activity generates.
I have a quick question. Just trying to find out a little bit more about how the auctions and everything operate.
Yeah, so auctions are a way to, again, everything is sort of about the economic movement, right? If other contracts are kind of programmed, meaning they're set up in motion and that's how they kind of work, Genius has a way to make it programmable, meaning that it has kind of like, if you're dormant, some code inside of Genius will come in and basically prod you, right? And to do something, whether it's economically feasible to sell or buy. The transfer auctions are the type of activity that if you made a mistake, for example, not so much made a mistake, but your circumstances have changed after you have created a miner. So, for example, you've created a basic miner, and maybe the lockup time is about 10%. So you created it today, and then tomorrow something happens with your situation, and you need to sell it, right? You need to retrieve the collateral. So you are in blackout period, and so you can't really sell. You can't end your miner. But what you can do, you can put it up for a bid, right, on an auction. Auction being the entire Genius ecosystem, who like anybody can come in and bid on your miner. So, for example, your miner, you locked up, let's just say $100 in it originally, and yesterday, and today you want to put it up for a bid, and so you have a way to retrieve some portion of your money back by selling it to somebody else, and that somebody else can buy it from you, but not terminate the miner, but actually continue serving. So it's kind of like I'm selling the IOU to someone, somebody buys the IOU from me and continues until the maturity. Maturity being your basic miner, let's say it's locked for like 30 days. But because you can't end it, you can sell it. And the way you sell it is not through breaking the promise, but actually selling it on the auction. The advanced miner follows the same principle. You can, let's say you lock up the same $100 today, and maybe it's for 90 days, and the lockup time is, let's just say 90 days, right? It's the minimum you can do the advanced miner for. But something comes up in 30 days, and you need to retrieve your collateral. In both cases, you follow the same sort of mechanism. You show up for a bid, you show up for an auction, you put it up for an auction, waiting for a bid, and somebody buys it from you. Now, in both cases, it's probably guaranteed that you're not going to get your full collateral back, whether it's the advanced miner or it's the basic miner. The reason being is because the auction started at about 9% of the value for each of your miners. So if we're talking about $100, your bid starts at 9, okay? And then if more people like your value, for example, that's maybe the price changed, and 10 people like to continue with the value that you have in your miner, then they might buy it from you, but the price starts at 9% of the value. So let's say you sell it at 50%. For the 50% of the value that you sell it for, you pay the fee to the auction, which goes to like the OA for the benefit of the system, for adjusting other rates in the stability pool, doing all that good stuff for the network. And then you get maybe, let's say $35 back, right? But that's the price you pay for getting out of the deal. So if before you could not get out of the deal at all, you could not sell your $100 locked, you cannot transfer it anywhere, you'd have to basically sit and wait until maturity or risk losing the principal, like it's in the case of advanced miner, or not being able to unlock it completely because there is a blackout period, for example, the first 10% of the time, okay? But that's the price you pay for a convenience. Whether you like the price or not, that's a different story. But the transfer auctions work because you want to retrieve some portion of your liquidity and not wait for maturity.
Okay, thanks a lot. Another quick question. Does the NFTs have what's the utility of the NFTs?
So I'm sort of going to give you my take on these. For now, they're collectibles, but think of it this way: the grantor, the entity, the DAO in the future, some organization, collective, whatever the case may be, that we can vote on, may use it for some weight for rewards, right? Right now, the grantor already sends royalties from sale of those NFTs to the OA. So, for example, there's a pack that you put on OpenSea, and the royalty that's come out of that get paid to OA. OA accumulates it, and then maybe this gets distributed as reward somewhere else, or maybe gets deposited into a stable pool for more better economics, or perhaps there is a vote of any kind in the future what to do with those funds. So the sale of NFT is working towards the economy within Genius, but personally for you right now, or for me, whoever holds the NFT, is just a sentimental value from the artistic perspective, and also the economic, yet another economic kind of plane, the market where you can, if somebody values your Eagle Aeon, for example, they can buy it from you for more money than you've spent summarizing something or whatever, right? We do not know yet. I think my personal take, it may be used in collateral in some way in the future, but it's not right now.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep.
Hey, I'm finally here.
Hey.
So it looks like we had a question on the summarize function work.
Say it again.
We have a question. How does the summarize function work?
Right. So, in general, you do not have a notion of like execution on blockchains on their own, right? Nobody can set a schedule and say every 5 minutes you want to do something, right? Be it to, like, you can't program an alarm clock on a blockchain. And because we're all running in that contract on a blockchain, and we have to have a way to some time, right? But also that time has to go into some form of action, like do something after 5 minutes. So in order to do that, we can't do it within the blockchain. We can actually come in externally. We need to perform a transaction. So every time we perform a transaction, we transfer value or execute a code in the blockchain. Summarization is that action when you come in from outside and you execute some code on a blockchain that it can't do on its own. This function of summarization is to calculate the rewards for the previous day and adjust and set the shares or the share rate for the next day. It calculates a bunch of stuff with how many people ended early, what the percentage of penalties are, does various calculations. But the reason why you would want to come in and perform that function, so the contract says, well, I need somebody to do it, and you say, why would I do it? And the reason why you would do it is to get paid 10,000 to 40,000 of Genie, depending on what day it is. So, for example, every day is 10,000 Genie for whoever shows up to click that button and perform that transaction for the network to do the calculation of that kind. Or when it's like 10 days or 100 days or 1,000 days, you have a sliding scale of rewards you get for showing up and clicking that button. The reason why you want to summarize is so that you do not incur large gas fees by the time you need to end your miner. So, for example, let's say you staked today, and then you're running for, I don't know, maybe 5 years. Let's just say it's a good number, 5 years, right? In 5 years, every day calculation that happens with your rewards needs to happen retroactively. So upon 5 years, when you're coming up on ending your miner, you say, okay, I want to end the miner, and the miner says, all right, you owe me $1,200 for all the calculations for every single day that I have yet to perform from the beginning of your mining all the way to 5 years. Okay, that's the problem that Black Hex, right? When you unstake a large miner, this is why you're sort of incurring all that cost for gas, because Gas is the price you pay to execute something on a blockchain, and the more computation you need to do, the more you pay. So Genius solved that by incentivizing people to come in and do summarization every day. So when the 5-year time, the cutoff time comes, you only pay a fraction of the cost for the previous day, or at most for a previous maybe 10 days, right? Because everything was sort of accounted for and summarized before you by somebody showing up every day, clicking that button, by somebody showing up every 10 days, clicking that button, and so on and so forth. That's the reason for summarization. It works for the benefit of the contract, and it lowers your fees, not only your fees, but everybody's fees, at a time when, like, at the most opportune time. You don't accrue any of those computations to be able to do. You just kind of, you do them orderly every day or every 10 days. Yeah. And that's why actually, that's the reason why, like, people are rushing to summarize. So on the one hand, they make 10,000 to 50,000 Genie, or to 40,000, I think, for their activity. But the other side of it is that the network enjoys the benefits of somebody doing it.
I'm learning here. Thank you so much.
In other words.
Yeah, it helps understanding more of the mechanics of it. It's like I got the basic idea originally, but that really helps.
Yeah, so on that note, Genius is a very well thought out product. Like, there's not even a single action within it that doesn't contribute to, in one way or another, to the overall health of the network, right? Like, you look at the stability pool, it has like stabilization mechanisms, it has various counters that contribute to that. Then you have the penalty distribution, then you have the breakdown between the basic miners and the advanced miners and what they get from penalties, and how they're actually constrained from not getting more than they should. And just the mere fact that the origin address is a shared responsibility between the regular OA user account and the grantor account, right? And none of them can actually do anything with the consensus mechanism that affect you making your rewards. But what they can do, they can either enroll more collateral or more types of collaterals. For example, if somebody tomorrow, they want to, we collectively want to trade, I don't know, some other token, I don't know, Link, let's just say, right? Somebody likes Link and they have a ton of collateral for it. So the grantor basically shows up and says, all right, should we enroll people into trading Link in the stability pool, right? So I've started from saying that it's not a programmed contract, but it's programmable. You are able to basically enhance it as you go, but do it in a safe and stable fashion that doesn't affect the operation of you making yield, yet expand the features of the contract itself. So as I look more into that product, I'm sort of fascinated by, like, everything has its place, and there is a reason for for things to work that way. I'll just put it this way.
I have a different kind of question also. I'm wondering how is this project being received by the Hex community? Like, are folks on board with it, or do they see this kind of like I'm not sure what the term would be, like sort of like a vampire type of thing where people should be going into Hex instead of this? Like, are they supportive? I mean, I'm in Genius too, by the way, so I'm not,
Yeah, no worries. I mean, there's, like, I can't speak for everybody, right? Of course, and I'm not on Twitter day in and day out to kind of track what they accept, what they don't accept. I think my take on it is there's never been one of anything, right? There's always progress, iteration on something that has existed before. I would say that Genius is probably 10% of Hex, and the other 90% of it is everything else that was working in DeFi to date. It's just being coded in such a way that it's beneficial, has a bunch of Pumpamentals. And so even if they don't accept the fact that Genius exists as a kind of like alternative to their bag, everybody is here to kind of make money, and if there is a product that makes more money for you, it makes it better. Not only from the price perspective, but also like store of value is such an interesting thing to me because you are storing a value across time. And so it's not what you make right now, but if you need to lock it for 12 years or 15 years, what are the chances that the project is going to be still viable and working as expected then? So for example, my conversation with a hexagon, for example, would be that, well, are you thinking about the OA holding, 90% of the supply, not in kind of algorithmic form, but in the form of a wallet somebody has keys to, right? Even though your price may pump, and that's fine and that's great. I mean, Hex has been great for a couple of years until it wasn't. You can kind of see the curve, right? It's a spike up and then it goes right back down. You have a completely round trip on the price. Now, if you look at it from the perspective of two years, where you are from the beginning all the way to probably the end of 2021, where you can actually say, all right, I've made enough money, that's great. But if you're storing your value for 12 or 15 years, what would be your outlook on that product from that perspective, right? Are you reasonably sure that the tokenomics is enough to hold the price up, or at least not dump it 95%, come 12 years, right? Or maybe like you go in and you create your ladders. What are the chances that you can actually time the market? You can't, right? And so there has to be smoothing of that bell curve, like it happened with Hex, where it went shooting up to 56 cents and then came right back down to 0.2, which Genius basically says, all right, well, that's a great run up, but it's also a horrible ramp down. So what we're going to do, we're going to come in and change the algorithms of how price ratchets up, but it doesn't actually distribute that, with that volatility. So you can almost have like the staircase, kind of like fluid staircase motion where you don't even have to go down 94%, you can go down 40%. So from the store of value perspective, when you unlock within a like huge deep bear market, you're not finding yourself at 95% down, you're finding yourself at 40% down. That's the beauty of the different tokenomics. And so when you talk to a hexagon, or hexagon looks at the product, they have to measure the sentiment from protecting their own bags or making right or wrong decision of actually staking for a long time. We can actually kind of unwrap that as well. But let's just say the person made the decision consciously, they know what they're getting into. And so that's one side of the story. And the other side of the story is, now that I've made a little bit of money and I want to use that product as a long-term storage, is it suitable for me? So that progress on tokenomics and evolution of how contracts work on the DeFi system is encoded in one product but not the other. So the question becomes, what do? Do you close your eyes and say it doesn't exist? Or do you try to kind of go in and research and maybe allocate some portion of your money to that, the new project, that to see whether it works as expected? You dive in and try to compare, right? So long answer to a short question of how hexagons feel about it is they feel both. They feel resentment from from perspective that, hey, they've been told that Hex is the best thing that happened. It ran up. It made a bunch of money to people. But they also realize it's 95% down and they need to do something about it because the bear markets will come and go, right? Within the 12 to 15 years, you will probably have 2 or 3 different cycles. And so the question becomes, do you choose right now a better product? You don't have to migrate the entire liquidity from Hex to Genius or whatever, right? But at least you need to open up your eyes and kind of look at what's available for your own wallet. That would be my answer on that.
Yeah, thank you. I like that perspective. So, because I always thought of this more like a Hex type of thing with some added benefits, but hearing this, I appreciate the perspective that this just has some very basic Hex-like features, but it's very different. It's a deviation from it. It's not just like we shouldn't associate this with just like a Hex clone with some improvements type of thing.
Not only that we can't associate or shouldn't associate, it's really provable that it's not, right? Like if we were to sit down and go feature by feature, and if we are open-minded, if we're not we're not just regurgitating what we've heard from others about Hex or what it does or what it's promising or what somebody says about the competing products or whatever, right? But pound for pound, if we're sitting down and going through features, we will see that time lock deposits have existed before in DeFi. Hex was not the first one. They haven't been promoted or they haven't been as popular. They weren't particularly they didn't build a community around certain things, right? But the concept has been around for a while. And so just because, time lock deposit exists doesn't mean that it should be implemented only in the way that a certain project did or did not, right? Because, for example, in Genius, you have taken what works well in Hex, for example, the miner, and you've iterated on it by saying, all right, what was the issue? The issue was that somebody doesn't like the harsh penalties. Somebody doesn't like the fact that if you have enough money, if you're a whale, for example, you can end your stake early, like in 30 days, and restake for more, and then dump the rest on the market, right? So all these things have been fixed coming from the Hex side, but there's also a different side of the story, is the liquidity pool. It's the exchange pool. It's the Uniswap pool, right? It's the part that has never been implemented in other areas. There were traces of it, like from Aave, or I think Liquid Loans does something to that effect. But the problem is that these are disparate offerings. How do you make it work all in one product in such a way that's tokenomically sound and they're glued all things together, right? So, for example, you take, and I'm not I don't want to dwell on Hex community or whatever, but you look at Icosa and you look at Hedron, right? Those are products that built on top of Hex. They think their tokenomics will be aligned, but in a way, there's only a set of market conditions when they work perfectly together. But when something happens, they go their separate ways, they get disjointed, and they have a completely different story that each of them tell in comparison to the price or the trajectory of Hex. And so what Genius did was, instead of saying, all right, we're going to rely on some other integrations, right, and we're going to build a base and then have others come in and actually plug into that. What we're going to do, we're going to make sure that all the parts of the tokenomics actually key off of each other and toggle off of each other. If it's a stability pool, then it needs to receive late penalties from the miner. If it's a miner, then it needs to be beneficial to both people who like the basic setup, low reward, low risk, right, and the advanced one. And by the way, if we are building a stability pool, why not just key off of a miner, off of that liquidity? Oh, and by the way, if we're building a stability pool, why don't we compete with Uniswap? Because whales don't like slippage if they need to come in and sell 100 million of Genie into on the open market. I have a better price here. Why don't I incentivize them to come in and do that? So basically what you start seeing is that genius is the economy within a contract, right? It's no longer just a store of value. It's no longer just a time deposit. It's the economic kind of incentive to keep it all in the family and kind of, keep both with the price. That's one reason why people like it, but also is the longevity of it. The longevity of it is the fact that you can actually prototype things that have been calculated on different market conditions, backtesting that have been done to basically tell you more or less whether your strategy works or not, right? Like, why is stability pool working this way? Why are the formulas working this way? It's because you take like last 5 years of data, you prototype it, and you come out with some suggestions for how it's best to implement that, right? So pound for pound, the features are probably 10% Hex, and the rest of their unique way of either dealing with problems that, or not problems, but like, let's just say the features that Hex had. And the rest is the philosophical push to keep the store of value kind of working through time, right? Like on some previous data that tells you that markets work this way, and if people come in, they will want these things.
Very cool.
And speaking of Hex, by the way, the Hexadus feature would not have been implemented if not for a desire of somebody from Hexagon community to actually switch to a different product because they've seen issues. Like, there are different people in Hex. There are some people who have come in at the beginning. They've created enough wealth, but there's also people who came in last 6 months. They've seen nothing but hurt, right? And you have everybody in between, and so you have some incentives for people whose price ran up 10,000% to basically keep going with their bags, right? But there are others who want to say, okay, well, the promise hasn't panned out, and like, I'm okay waiting, but I'm also seeing issues with gas fees, right? I'm also seeing issues with early miners ending and dumping the price. Like, if I'm a whale, if I sell 100 million of Hex, look, that no matter what you do, if you sell 100 million of Hex, you're going to dump the price, right? So there is no other alternative. You can't go to a stability pool and do it. So those kinds of things kind of grow on people who want to ladder it out. If you believe in the project, stay with it, but also be open-minded and see that it has some things that it needs improvement with.
And I'm just going to add to that too, just from my experience, because I was into Hex a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And so I've gotten to know the community quite a bit personally. And one thing I noticed is I've challenged people that have either had a maxi mindset or said it was vampiric or anything of that nature, that I've challenged them, have you read the white paper? Do you have questions? And I get no response back. They're just not looking into it at all. It's tunnel vision. They're set in their ideas and in their ways. And it's unfortunate because we should stay open-minded for progress. But that's been my experience with what Hexicans think about Genius. You can see in our Telegram group, there are quite a few Hexicans here in Genius. But those that want to say different about it, it's they haven't looked into it at all. They haven't done their research.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to go that route, in the white paper of Hex, it clearly states that there's going to be an issue with gas fees. The auditors that actually did perform the security audit for it 2.5 years ago, back in 2019, clearly stated that the S-load function is going to be excessively expensive should Ethereum kind of grow in price? And why would Ethereum not grow in price if it's popular, right? So it's kind of like either this was ignored, it was time to market thing that nobody wanted to fix because, and maybe for the right reasons. Maybe the 2-year run-up was well justified, only to discover that there needs to be a different iteration of it. But speaking of the white paper, it says right there and then it is going to be an issue. Now, the question is, who in the Hex community talks about that issue being a known thing before it all started, right? So I think they're just doing themselves a disservice, but not by not looking at the facts there, right? Like if you don't have to be pro Hex or anti Hex, you can do well, right, in Hex, and a lot of people did well in Hex. It has its own pluses and minuses, but the question on the have you read the white paper? Have you actually gone for the truth as opposed to the the talking points that everybody's sort of regurgitating on Twitter, right? That's important because somebody was telling me this story. I think it's a psychological experiment about the monkeys reaching out for the banana. Like the first round of monkeys were sprayed with water once they reached for the banana. And so they stopped reaching for banana because it was not very pleasant. And so the second set of monkeys did not know anything about spraying the water. They were just stopped by the first set of monkeys by reaching for banana because you shouldn't just go for it. Why you shouldn't go for it, nobody knows, but you just don't, right? And so that's, in a lot of ways, I think that's a judgment to a personal wallet of not looking at better ways of doing things, regardless whether you're like maxi or you just kind of like you're into that ecosystem or the other, right? But like you can still have the truth. You can still say, yeah, I accept all these flaws, but I do acknowledge that they exist.
I like that proverb though about the monkeys. Thank you. So we got 21 people listening. If you guys are not part of the Telegram for Genius, definitely check us out. We're always active in there. It's Jenny Crypto. So that would be, let's see what the link is. t.me/Jenny Crypto. So you can join us and always chat with us. There's always someone there being active. We just hit a little over 4,100 members in the chat.
I have another quick question. I heard there's, I watched a couple YouTube videos on Thomas G. He was talking about it. He was also referring to about all the Pumpamentals. Could you go over a little bit of the Pumpamentals in the project?
Yeah, so there's a lot. As I was saying before, every single part of Genius, whether it's stability pool or rewards, just the whole thing has a lot of different parts kind of key off of each other. Like for example, let's take the stability pool, right? The the crazy one. The rates that the stability pool sets, has incentives for either the miners to come in or for participants to come in and borrow the miner by lowering the price, right? So for example, if your price on the stability pool to come in and create a miner is lower than the open market and it doesn't have any slippage, right? What would you rather do? Would you rather come in and lock in for 90 days from the open market, or would you rather do it from a stability pool? Once you do it on a stability pool, or actually from the open market, doesn't really matter. You still lock it for 90 days, so that removes the genie from circulating supply, right? So the number of I believe there's over 9,000 miners right now across 4 chains. And by the way, that's another differentiator is 4 chains. Every different, community can participate in very different ways. We see it reflected in price. We see it reflected in activity, in volume, but they're there. If we were to do it only on Ethereum, they wouldn't be there. But anyway, so the Pumpamental is also the reach for the community. But coming back to advanced miner, let's say that once you lock it in, it removes Genie from circulating supply. And let's say you end the miner early. The penalties that would normally go to one account, for example, cumulative OA account, for example, here they get distributed across different miners, like advanced miners. They're still keeping the promises and keep chugging along. But what's interesting is that the penalties are removed from circulating supply. I'm sorry, the penalties. So the penalties are paid out to the miners, but they are also removed from the books as far as circulating supply. However, the inflation that is being paid to the miners of 4.23%, right? So the inflation counter keeps the penalties in the pool. So, for example, if you've paid 50% of penalties, they will be removed from calculation as far as what the circulating supply is, but it will not be removed from the pool where the inflation is coming from. So inflation is still coming from 4% of the total supply of 240 plus, 15, 20 billion extra that's coming from Genie. So over time, you may think that on one part it's inflationary because it has 4% of emission rate of tokens, right, that get paid to the miners, but also the deflationary part of it is how it counts out the penalties from the circulating supply, like roster or counter or state, right? And so the more penalties you pay, or the more penalties miners receive, it kind of counters the inflation that is being emitted. So it becomes a little bit of disinflationary. There's a bunch of other things like Pumpamental on late miner fees, right? The 14% go to OA, and then some other things go to other advanced miners, and then the OA itself is not receiving all the benefits, right? The miners receive all the benefits. But from the stability pool perspective, for example, when collateral miner ends, the penalties don't get distributed to the other miners. I think they're staying in the stability pool and affecting the counters that ultimately affect the price on the buy side and the sell side, right? So there's a bunch of formulas, and I think we have a list of maybe 18. I forgot what they are, but like 18 different Pumpamentals and benevolence that exist in Genius to kind of work together. Like, I don't necessarily have to remember all of them. That's a reference point for me. But I know that if I look into every one of them on the list of the 18th, they will touch at least 2 or 3 different mechanisms adjacent to it. Like if it's a stability pool, then there's going to be a late mining fee that kind of works with it. If it's a circulating supply, then it's going to be decrease of counters for the late mine fees from there. If it's going to be 23% that basic miners get paid in rewards versus 77 plus plus percent that the advanced miners get paid, then there's going to be some penalty counter that also affects the weight of the miner, and that also affects the stability pool if that miner actually goes in and tries to work with that. So it's a little bit crazy. If you dig into that, you will see that every Pumpamental is crisscrossing with others from completely seemingly unrelated area. And so to date, I believe out of 9,000 miners that are being set up, I think we're talking about 60% of wallets are mining as opposed to 40% not mining, something like that. I have to double check that. But you have to see that number is way higher than anything that anybody has done within 1 month in a competing projects, where you could only have maybe 10% of stakers or maybe 12% of stakers on a good day. And so that makes me think that the more people mine, the more miner rewards you're going to get out of the inflation, right? And also, there's a huge potential for people forgetting to unstake, people forgetting to serve their promise, and so there's more ways and more kind of opportunities for the miners that are serving to make even more money, right? So, I mean, you have to go into the miner weight, and you have to go into how performance per share actually work with distribution of the rewards, but that's a long kind of answer to like a variety of Pumpamentals that exist. There's like a list of it, but what strike me the most is that they don't work on their own. They're actually kind of tie into other parts of Genius. That's very interesting.
I love hearing you speak, Shades, by the way. To add to that, just since I'm more of a, I guess, consider myself the user experience type, not so technical. I see that as Genius incentivizes users also to deposit valuable tokens, such as, stable coins that become redeemable by other Genius users in exchange, and the depositor receives Genius debt that earns the extra Geni token every day. And that Genius debt is accounted for in a Genius miner. But what I'm thinking too is, like, unlike traditional finance where debt benefits a bank or a national reserve, Genius is a positive thing for the ecosystem. So it's like everyone thinks the word debt is bad, like bad debt. Oh gosh. With Genius, it's different. The more Genius debt there is, the more value of Genius is backed by collateral. And this takes up the pressure that causes the price of Genius to drop on the open market, but also it incentivizes and increasing the market price for Geni and that's what I'm getting from all this.
Nice. Yeah, on the price, I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, am I getting that right?
No, I mean, yeah, it's the stability pool is the black hole of collateral, right? I think people are finding arbitrage opportunities daily. So one interesting part about the stability pool is if nobody is actually engaging with it, it decays 5%. I think it's 1% in 24 hours and 5%, something like that. I forgot what it is, but I think it's up to 5% a day or something like that. So if you see a price, a lot of people have been coming into stability pool and they're like, okay, I know how to calculate whether it's beneficial for me to sell to it or to buy from it, but I really don't see the opportunities. The price is much higher than it is in open market. My answer is wait. If you wait a couple of days, there's going to be a way that the algorithm basically decays the price to the point where it's much lower than the market, and you can come in and do the miner. And the more miners you do, the more collateral you deposit. That on the backside, right, the backside of that oil rig, it pumps the offer price to traders to come in and sell their collateral into the stability pool. Do you see how that works? So essentially, it lowers the price for miners to come in, and it ups the price of the redeemers to come in and sell to the pool. And so the more of that circular action happens, the more collateral the stability pool is sucking in it. And because it's locking it for like 90 days, and then miners unlock on a mission schedule. Like, for example, we don't all lock at the same day, maybe except for day 0. Some of us have locked in. It was, just the thing to do, right? But like over time, you're going to have dispersion of those miners that are coming offline, they're being ended, the collateral comes in offline, and then people start either selling to the same pool on the other side. So you have a miner that comes in, you lock at price, I don't know, 1 cent, for example, for 90 days. When your miner ends, it comes out at 1 cent, but the price on the open market is 2 cents. And then you're thinking, all right, fine, I'm going to sell. Then the second question becomes, can I actually sell back to the stability pool? And the answer is yes, if you wait for 1, 2, 3, maybe even a week, right? But then you can come back and sell for even higher price to the stability pool. So the collateral never leaves the ecosystem. It never actually goes to the Uniswap. The other thing is think of it the trader mindset. The trader mindset is such: you have Genie at 1 cent on the open market and 1.20 in the stability pool. So what I'm going to do, yes, the price is high. I'm not going to sell my Genie to the price. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy it in the open market at 1, and I'm going to come back into the stability pool and sell it at 1.2. Right? So basically, if you are a trader, all you have to do is just basically snipe those opportunities. They will become less and less prevalent because more and more people will be looking at it. But this is the reason why volatility in the stability pool is good for trading, because you can actually spot those opportunities and you can make difference between what the market says Genie values and what the stability pool thinks the Genie is worth. Because remember, at the beginning we were saying that the stability pool has no ties to DEX, has no ties to any kind of external price. It does its own thing based on how many people come in and go and the velocity of that action. So there's almost inevitably where the price is going to be mismatched, and that's a arbitrage opportunity. So even if you're not staking, if you're not into mining, you don't care about the project as what it has to offer, but you like the price action, you can use the stability pool as an arbitrage for the open market. Does that make sense?
Heck yeah. Yeah, it does. Thanks for that. We had that question about the Pumpamentals, and I pulled up the white paper, and it's listed pretty well when I just did the Control F and typed in Pumpamental. It came right up where it talks about the
it kind of makes sense. But I just have one question.
Different ones.
So like 2 days ago, I went onto the stability pool, and the price for Genie was much higher on the stability pool versus purchasing from PancakeSwap or Uniswap. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So it's just if you're a sensible economic participant, you would never buy at a higher price, correct? And if so, your neighbor will think the same way. So no action will happen in the stability pool for the foreseeable future until such time when the decay brings the price down. And then when you come back in a week or so, or maybe 2 days, I really can't predict that, but there's going to be an adjustment to the point where you will feel as a sensible economic participant to actually come in and take advantage of that opportunity. So very often you will see very high price on stability pool, but you will also see a very low price. Well, very is not a very deterministic term, but you see what I mean. Per Genie, you would have maybe a difference of maybe 5% of the price. And if you're doing it on volume, you can make enough money. And when I say that, I really mean if you're a trader and if you kind of just do that all day, and you can create like notifications for when the price is less or more, depending on what you're trying to do, then you can trade that. Like Avalanche, if you look at Avalanche 2 weeks ago, I think it was beautiful setup where it kind of had, I want to say 1/2 to 1/3 of the price of the open market on the stability pool, and somebody came in and basically bought the entire thing. Right? And so if that person bought, the price changed because the more people buy, it kind of, it does the so-called issue pump. And so obviously, like, you have to disincentivize people to come in and buy if the price is higher, because you need to take care of the miners. So, if I come in and I see the price is high, that means that I've missed my opportunity to redeem, and somebody else did it for me.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Stability pool is a game changer.
It really is. I think the most part is, so I'm looking at it from perspective of, if you have some dollars or some current currency that you like to save in something, right? Yes, it's a new project. Yes, it's crypto, it's volatile, but there can be algorithms that basically keep the price, if not stable, then less volatile, right? Like, we do not want to have the bell curve of run-ups and dump down, because the people who dumped it down were the traders and the whales in Hex, for example. That, and I'm using Hex. I mean, there's tons of projects. It's just like, the comparison is because it's very close in a lot of communities. They look at the same thing. A lot of us are aware of the price action on the other side, and so that's why I'm kind of using the example of it. But like, if you have that bell curve and the complete distribution to almost 98%, the people that are selling it down are the ones who are buying it, who were buying it down low, right? So even if you're not using stability pool for mining, you have to remember one thing. If you come in at the price of, let's say, 2 cents into a collateral pool, after 90 days or 360 days or 5 years or even 12 years, you get Genie at the same price as you come in into the stable pool with. So even if you want to make a collateral miner, say, wait for 2 years, it's almost guaranteed that the price is going to be higher than it is now, because it's a new token, and it's not a very known token. And so when you lock it up, you can just basically wait for it to pump on the open market, and when you come out, you can arbitrage, right, while you're making yield. So I do not know how to measure changing things, but it's definitely the most, like, interesting thing that has happened for the past year, to me, from what I was looking at.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I was in the Telegram earlier, and I saw a couple people tweet. They were like, "Wow, someone just paid off 12K of 320 million Genie DAI debt. Thank you." So I was just a little bit confused on how it worked, but thanks for explaining everything.
Yeah, for sure. So a few notes on sorry, I'm gonna pick on some statements from Hacks, not in a bad way, but just like to clarify the idea of no admin keys versus the idea of progress on a contract. I started my rant from programmable money versus programmed, right? The programmable part is that we can continuously improve, and part of it is the Exodus function. I think it's very good and it's very useful for us to do. The Hexadus part is just an iteration of it, but the Exodus part is what excites me the most, is because basically what you can do, let's consider that Pulse Chain comes out. Let's just say that we like what, and let's just say, their team doesn't fork all the state, and it just comes out on its own, right? Or maybe a fork of Ethereum or some other chain that works on Ethereum virtual machine that can run our smart contract, or Genius smart contract, I should say. One way to get there is to basically migrate. The reason why you would want to migrate is maybe because they have more incentives for the contract. Maybe it's cheaper gas fees, right? Like for in case with Polygon and Avalanche, the contract was deployed directly on it or on them. Like somebody showed up and they took the contract, they deployed it. We've witnessed that, right? Like it happened after, it wasn't the same contract. It happened like 2 days after the main contract. That's one way of doing it. But the other way of doing it is to basically say, hey, miners, hey, holders of the of Genie tokens, here's the address where we're migrating. That address is going to be on a different chain. For example, you're going to have another 50% reduction in fees. Maybe you will have faster transactions. Maybe you'll have some other incentives that benefit Genius ecosystem, right? For whatever reason. So what we do, we basically say, yes, I agree, I vote to enter into that Exodus rather, feature into that action, right? And then I'm going to lock my capital on Ethereum. Let's just say if I'm migrating from Ethereum, and I'm going to use the same keys to unlock it on the other side. I've just effectively migrated my wallet from one chain to another chain, okay? And I've migrated migrated liquidity, but I've also migrated the stake or the miner setup. I don't need to do anything else on the other side. It will continue working as expected until such time when my promise ends and I can retrieve the Genius from there. Yes, granted different price actions and all that good stuff, but the fact that you can get out of the adversarial situations with Genius contract, and the fact that you do not need to use admin keys to be able to do that, it's all you yourself sign your own migration, is another great feature that exists, right? Some of the statements that were made that, oh, it's a complete contract, right? It's locked and loaded. Well, great. The consensus may be locked, but it's also not migratable. Look what happened in Hex with the S-load, for example. They could not go to another chain because there's no mechanism to migrate Hex contract to another chain. They're not on Polygon. They're not on Avalanche, right? It's not that they cannot deploy it ever, but right now they aren't, right? And so the reason why Genius is covering a lot more ground is because of that migration feature. For example, different issues that may arise with Ethereum that may prevent Genius contract to operate on it. There is a clear path to migration. But on top of it, you can apply that to other tokens that are similar to Genius, like Hex, for example. And so what Hexadus does, it takes the liquidity of your own stakes on Hex and brings them into Genius ecosystem. They don't necessarily come over, but the mechanism is the same. You basically end them on their side, and Genius restakes them under different conditions here. So I think that's another feature that people who like to migrate some or all of their Hex liquidity for very unprofitable stakes that have been staked for like Quadra Cinco to somewhere else and recoup some of the collateral. Like for example, if you entered an unprofitable stake on Hex, it will be a long time before the price goes up until you actually can benefit from it. So the offer here is to come in at a much lower price on Genius token and get more Genius, because the name of the game is not the price, it's the number of tokens, right? So if you have, 100,000 Hex at 0.2 cents, then you can get 100 million for the same thing on Genius, with the expectation that the price is going to grow faster than Hex's potentially. Then it's just a name, just the numbers game, right? Like the more tokens you have, the more units of appreciation you will have. So a lot of people, somebody was asking a question about what hexagons are feeling about Genius. They're also looking at that, from that perspective. They're saying, all right, it will take me 2, 3, 4 years to get back to par on my hex stake. If I end it early, I'm going to pay a penalty. So I'm kind of forced to sit in those stakes. Here, if I end the stakes, I can get at least some of the portion of my principal back, and I'm going to convert it into a much greater number of genius, which have per token have a much greater chance of appreciation in the early stage of growth. If you look at Hex, you will see that Hex started growing after 90 days to 120 days. It was a different economic life cycle, but clearly you could see that the most gains were made in the first year. The chart gains that you can measurably see, like for example 0.1 cent to like 56 cents, were very, very visible on the chart, and people think that, oh, that's where it grew, but that was not it. If you actually go down to the resolution and see what it did in 2020, it did much better than it did in 2021. So hexagons may bank on the fact that if you get more tokens, more genius tokens, they will have a chance to experience a lot more run up with greater set of tokens here than they would with the locked up principal on Hex. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's just that there's so many mechanics around this that it takes a little bit processing time. A lot of big brain stuff going on.
Yeah, so the mechanics is quite simple. In Hex, you have, if you early end your stake, you have a principal plus your yield minus penalty. And the penalty is harsher than the yields that you've made if you ended your stake early, reasonably early. Let's say you started half a year and you have like a 10-year stake, you probably will lose a lot of collateral. So the difference between the penalty that you pay and the yield is what you get. You have the amount of principal left is yield minus penalty, and is going to be, let's just say, 30% of your total value as you've entered with Hex stakes. Let's just say you've entered with $1,000. You would have made X number of dollars at the end of the stake in 10 years, but it is what it is. We're $1,000 6 months later, and if you end, you'd get $300. So what Hexadus does, it allows you to take the $300 that you would have gotten if you were to end the stake on Hex, and convert the $300 into advanced miner of 90 days on Genius side. Upon which, as normally, when you're ending your advanced stake after 90 days, you get a $300 value in Genius back. And the price of Genius and whatever Ethereum chain is, what is it, 0.0014, something like that, right? So you calculate how many Genius you would get for $300 that comes over. So it's not a panacea, it's not a silver bullet, it doesn't give you the principal back, but it allows you to convert the remaining principal into a stake on Genius side with more like greater number of tokens, if you will, at this price, right? Now, there's a kicker. Yes, you can say, all right, well, I'm not ending my miner on the Hex side. That's fair. You can wait until completion. But if you were to break that promise and you were to go ES your stake on Hex and come over, when the UI is fixed, right now it has some issues, but the contract itself is working, you will basically register that stake on 4 chains. So instead of $300 coming in from Hex, you would have 3 by 4. So it's $1,200 potentially ingenious value that you could have on this side. Because remember, when we're talking about Hex, we're talking about Ethereum only, but when we're talking about Genius, we're talking about 4 chains right now. So then you have to start figuring out whether it's economically beneficial for you to end one stake, get $300 out of 1,000, get, I don't know what, 50 million, 30 million, 10 million, doesn't really matter how many genie on one chain, but also replicate it across 4 chains or additional 3 chains, right? So I think that's a really good deal in a lot of ways. If you were to end your stake anyway, or if you have done research and you want some of your stakes and not be on Hex, but actually come over to Genius. But that's, the mechanism of Hexodus is the same as Exodus. The question is whether it's economically viable for you to break that stake and come over with liquidity you would have otherwise gotten in stable coins on Hex should you have liquidated that stake and did an EES. Is that something? Is it helpful?
Very, very helpful, man. A lot of big brain stuff.
I was wondering if in the future, are there any thoughts of, let's say, for example, if Pulse Chain is getting close, or one day ever goes live, if, let's say, folks are on Polygon or other chains and they wanted to trade their Polygon or AVAX Genie tokens to get into ETH, is there going to be a simple path for them to do that, or they just have to sell it and get onto ETH on their own type of thing, like a bridge or something?
Yeah, probably the latter. I'm not exactly sure about the bridges and when Pulse Chain comes out. I mean, could be sooner than later, and I don't think any bridges are going to be built for now. So Polygon, Avalanche, BSC are on their own. If your strategy involves migrating liquidity or duplicating or allowing Pulse Chain to fork your liquidity, it will only be done on Ethereum, and that's why, in a lot of ways, Ethereum right now is probably, by my calculation, is just higher price because people are accumulating there because they're going to get like a free copy. I mean, granted, it's not going to be the same price, but again, the name of the game is just number of tokens, and then the market, if there's a useful aspect to this product, the market will take care of itself, and when it does, you're going to have more tokens. Plus, you're going to have miners. So, for example, if you want to enter a miner now, the miner is going to come over. It's not going to get liquidated and then moved over to Pulse Chain. It's just going to come over verbatim, right? And it's going to continue to work there in theory, how it's supposed to work, right? And so if you say, I'd rather have Liquid Genie at 0.00005 on Pulse Chain, or I would just like to have a miner there locked for like a year and see my Genie come out of it at the price in a year, right? So, I mean, there are different strategies that people do, but to answer your question, I don't think any of the 3 out of the 4 chains will play any role in coming over to Pulse Chain except for Ethereum.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You guys care about benevolence or proof of benevolence? We can go over that as well, if you care.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Yeah, so benevolence is just that. You burn and throw away your coins for the benefit of the network. You can do it 3 ways. You can burn your miner, whether it's collateral or advanced or basic, or you can just basically, there are 3 ways. There's a miner, there's a collateral miner, and I believe, I'm not for sure, I have to kind of look at the white paper again, but I think you can just send the coins to an address. I'm not sure, but the primary example would be to basically, as you end your miner, let's say you stake $1,000 for like 90 days. You're feeling rich. You've made a lot of money on Genie, and you say, whatever. I'm not gonna reclaim it, but I'm not going to not end it, because if you end it, you will pay all the other miners they're staking with you, right? That's not what you want. You want to come in and basically say, I'm going to end my miner, but I'm not going to receive any proceeds off of it. I'm just going to send it to this benevolence address or burn it, or however it works on the inside of the contract. And so that token number, let's say, it's 10 million genie at the time that you unlock, it disappears, it exits the circulation, it's never to be seen. You basically burn it. So what that means is the circulating supply goes even lower, and it has a chance to increase in the future. Probably with $1,000 you won't make a dent, but if you are a decent sized whale, you can do that with a collateral miner, and that burned number of tokens stay in the collateral pool and basically pump the price for others. That's what kind of like what benevolent whales really are. They try to keep the price up if they want to by doing benevolence, the act of burning their own tokens. I was joking that if you did not get in on the first sacrifice, this is another one that you can do. Well, close to 2 hours, guys and girls. It's been awesome.
A lot of good information, man.
Yeah. We're all learning. White paper is a little bit dense. There's a lot of information in it, but I think it needs to be split into topical questions in a way, like FAQ, maybe something like that, because like it makes sense if you're reading it like linearly, if you already know what the product does. But I think we may need to do the like additional work outside of that white paper to split it up in a way that it's more digestible.
Yeah, I agree. When people really find out how the stability pool works, I think it's going to change. I think that's a game changer.
Yeah, I think there are efforts to create some videos or some other marketing material for that, but it's my take on it. It's not a one facet thing. Stability pool is just like a mechanism that holds a lot of, like, has a lot of hands and a lot of pots. I think I would have liked a presentation of a stability pool as a cornerstone of that contract, and then maybe other facilities sort of how they operate with it, because like it's hard to understand what it does, not like by math or anything, but like you were saying, it's never been done before. That how do you deposit something in the pool and the price pumps up? How do you sell something into the pool and the price pumps up? The concept is really foreign to a lot of people, because when you go to the market, the price should go down in theory, right? If you sell a lot, the price goes even further down. With collateral pool is the other way around, because the algorithm is not open market. You don't have a bidder, and you don't have an offer and a bid. You do have an algorithm that basically tries to accommodate both sides, and it's a little bit counterintuitive when you look at it. And plus the concept of decay of value up until such time when it's economically for somebody to come back in and engage is also a little bit hard to understand, because it's not linear. It's kind of like I don't know. It's like a ticker, right? Like a clock. It goes down up until somebody kicks it, and it comes back up. And it goes down and starts snoring again until somebody comes in, kicks it, and it wakes back up, right? So that concept of a stability pool, that it kind of wears multiple hats, and it works outside of the open market bid and offer, needs to be explained. Guys, have any other questions?
My mic on? I think so. Can you go over the summarize function and what its purpose? What's its purpose?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've talked about it in the beginning, but I will definitely I'm happy to repeat it. So the summarize function is so that when your minor comes due, in very simple terms, when your minor comes due, a long minor, several years, your gas price is very low. The second reason why summarize function exists is so that a new share rate and calculations for the advanced miners, the penalties that they receive in addition to their regular yield from other miners that have ended early and therefore did not keep their promise and therefore were penalized, and therefore those penalties have to be paid out somewhere, and part of it goes to those who are staked. To get that summary done, somebody has to kick off a processing on the blockchain because there's no notion of time. I can't say today at 5 o'clock I'm going to do X. So somebody has to come in and execute a function on a contract to do summarization, share price calculation, reward calculation, all that good stuff. Because remember, you're getting paid every day. The calculation happens every day. But the real time when you actually receive the reward is when you end the miner. So to speed up the process of calculation and not have a backlog by the time you end your long-running miner, the network helps you by pre-calculating some of the things for you. Okay? And because there is no notion of time, somebody has to come in and do it. Therefore, somebody comes in, presses that summary button. And the reason why they come in and press that as opposed to sit on the couch and not do anything is because they get paid for it. They get paid anywhere from 10,000 to 40,000 Genie for doing that, depending on what day it is, whether it's like daily or every 10 days or every 100 days or every 1,000 days. So there's an incentive for somebody to compete, to come in and do summarization for everybody, all the stake miners, so that you can save on gas when you end your miner. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. That's all I needed, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. You explained everything perfect.
Oh, I got a question here. Mars, that's from you. When you end a miner, can you explain how the process is between the end miner button and release shares so people know? All right. 99.9% of the time, you guys don't need to do that. Every time you end the miner, it basically releases shares. Because what you have when you have a miner, you don't have Genie, you have a miner. And all you have is just a piece of the pie in your pocket or a voucher to come in and redeem your rewards plus your Genie, your original Genie that you've staked or mined with. So that voucher is your share. Somebody gets, 50% of the yield, somebody gets 0.1% of the yield, depending on what size of your principal is locked up. So when you release a share, it happens automatically when you end the miner. The share goes back to the pool and you get, it's a code check. You come in, you give them a voucher, they give you a code. Sometimes releasing shares is important for miners that are staled. For example, I staked $100. I no longer want to be in Genius. I forgot that I did it. I moved to a different country. I no longer have access to my keys, but my miner still works. When it ends, and I don't end it, meaning I don't come in and say, yes, I know you've ended your promise. I want to retrieve my Genie. Over time, it starts leaking value, and it starts basically saying, okay, after 7 days, it's worth less and less and less and less until such a time when there's no value left, but the shares to retrieve are already locked in that miner, and nobody can come in and basically get the shares out to end the miner. So Genie has a couple of mechanisms to deal with that thing, to release shares to the pool, to the contract. After 400 or something days, you can come in and you basically, I want to pay my fee to run that function on a miner that is stale. Somebody else can do it, not the person who moved out, not the person who lost the keys, but somebody else. So that's a way for you or anybody else to come in on a miner and do a release shares so that you can get paid a little bit more off.
Yeah, so I got kicked out. I was done. I'm not sure if it was at the logical end or not, but that was the difference between doing release shares manually and just ending the miner. All right, folks. Any questions? Been on for like a couple of hours now. I mean, I don't mind staying. I'm just saying, if no questions, I'm going to disengage.
I have one more last question. So I'm looking at the stability pool right now, and right now it says deposit 1 ETH equals 6.9 Genie. So it's best not to deal with the stability pool. It's best to get it through Uniswap, correct?
Which chain?
Ethereum.
All right, let's go to Ethereum. All right, stability pool. Are you on deposit or redeem?
Deposit.
All right, and then do you have it set as ETH or DAI?
I have.
Because it matters,
Okay,
right?
so let me put it to DAI. Let me see.
Yeah, DAI is like $1. It'd be easier calculation.
Okay, yeah, DAI is you get less. So one DAI. So one DAI. Okay, I
Yes.
see what you're saying. Let me type in a number, a dollar amount.
Yeah, somebody cleaned it out. I mean, 6,000 Genie per DAI is very low. Somebody already cleaned it out.
Okay. So it's best to just keep coming back in, checking to see.
Yeah, and also look at where it says total locked DAI. It says 17.7 DAI.
Yeah.
That's that's your limit. That's what you can redeem.
Okay.
No more.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not on redeem. I apologize. Deposit is fine. Yeah. So no, it's only for redeem. When you redeem, you're looking at the number to redeem, because you can't redeem more than it's available, right?
Okay.
Which means that somebody hasn't deposited enough collateral for miner. Therefore, you don't have enough to redeem. So it's kind of like you're paying for somebody deposits. So I come in and deposit for a miner. I say I want to come in with $1,000 deposit. I do a DAI, right? And I get whatever I get. That 1,000 DAI sits in the pool, and you can come in and redeem, meaning you will pay for my loan. So if I haven't deposited 1,000 DAI, you don't have a loan to redeem and pay for.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So not only you have to look at the ratio for when you're coming in redeeming, but you may find a really good ratio, but there is like $10 available there.
Okay.
So yeah, that's important too.
I think it would be good for somebody in the community that understands how the stability pool works and come out with a video. So for new, for new oncomers, they'll understand this.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And the UI is being improved too. Like before, we didn't see as many metrics and people had to guess, like divide and everything, like where it says DAI issue rate for deposits.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to redeem, you would have, I still don't have it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when you go, redeem is a harder example because deposit is kind of like, and deposit, it gives you the price for Genie and DAI right there. But when you go to redeem, all you have to do is just, you don't have that price. You have to take the 17.7 DAI and and basically play with the number as you put it in Genie, how many you can redeem up to 17.7 DAI, and then divide that by 17, and you will get, or 17 divided by that number of coins, and you will get the price. You see how it works? It doesn't show you the actual price that you're redeeming, but you can calculate it.
Okay.
And I totally agree that there needs to be a video, and or the UI needs to show a lot more than it does now.
Okay. Yeah, because like on the deposit page, it shows you at what rate you're buying the Genie as. I see that right now, the DAI issue rate for the deposit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's higher because, as you can see, the total unsettled Genius is 0, meaning somebody came in and cleaned it all out.
Okay.
And as I was saying before, you're gonna see that a lot unless people are not paying attention. So when Ethereum is, gets all eyes on it, when the price goes up or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to chains that haven't pumped, like Polygon or whatever, and you can get better deal if you are agnostic to where you get your Genie from, knowing that you can't really bridge them. They will stay on the chain where they are, right? But if you don't care, you just kind of like, okay, I care about making yield, whichever chain I'm on, then you can just seek across the four chains for a better deal.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense.
I had a question. Is it all right for me to ask?
Yeah, for sure. Go.
Okay. All right. So, I'm on the Genius mining feature, and, the days are already up, the promise days, and it's giving me, the option to end the miner. However, when I hit end miner, I do have it connected to like my MetaMask wallet. It pops up, it says Genie mining contract information, and then, it also says, there's estimated gas fees of 0.016169 Ethereum, and then it says insufficient funds. What does that mean? I'm really confused by it. And I'm not supposed to release the shares, correct?
I'm sorry. Was I on mute?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was on mute. So, jeez. Every blockchain has a native token. ETH on Ethereum, Polygon on, you have Matic on Polygon, AVAX on Avalanche. Those are the ones, those are the native tokens that get the fees paid on, right? Or the fees get paid in that native token. So if you end a miner and you need X Ethereum, that Ethereum needs to be in your wallet to be able to pay for gas fee. Effectively, you cannot end the miner unless you have a certain Ethereum in your MetaMask.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I appreciate you answering that. So I would have to hop onto MetaMask and make sure I have enough Ethereum for those gas fees then, in order to end it.
Exactly. And also one thing to remember, when it does the estimation, it does the higher, like a higher number, it gives you a higher number. It may be much less, but you have to have enough of Ethereum there in order for it to let you close it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It does clear up a lot of confusion that I had.
Cool.
And what is the release shares for? I do know in the previous space you kind of brushed up on it, but I think I arrived a little bit too late to hear the full explanation.
Yeah, for sure. So release shares you probably do not want to do in 99.9% of the time. This is mostly for releasing shares of late miners that basically you have when you create a share, they give you a code check, right? And when you have a code check, you come in and you give the code check and you get your genie. So late miners, people who have abandoned the miner, who no longer have access to their wallets or private keys or whatever the case may be, they cannot end their miners. So somebody has to clean it all out and get paid for it. So you can come in and get a shutdown, or you can do release shares on it. But manually, don't do it. All you have to do is just basically shut down the miner as a regular user. Later we can go into like some reasons why you could do release shares, but for a regular advanced miner or a basic miner, if you need to end it, you don't need to do release shares.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the explanation.
Yep.
I got a question on the collateral miners. Like at the end of the collateral miners, like say I do a collateral miner for 90 days, and at the end, if the debt is paid off, do I get my initial money that I put in minus the fee?
If your debt is fully paid off, you get genius. You don't get your collateral. So if you entered with DAI and get genie collateral miner, somebody comes in and pays debt for you, you get genie at the price that you've entered with. Now, if the debt hasn't been paid off or has been paid off in part, the part that hasn't been paid off get paid back to you in collateral, your DAI. But the part that has been paid off is being paid to you as genie. The yield that you've made within 90 days is paid off to you in genie only, never collateral.
I think it makes sense now. I was worried about that part.
I mean, there are strategies, right? Because let's say you are in the run up in the bull market, and the price of genie comes back up, and then you lock up your miner, and then there's a top, and your price starts dumping, or whatever. Not the bull market, maybe some local top, or whatever the case may be, and you're within the 90 days. So one of the strategies is that, the price is dumping. I really would have wished I didn't lock my miner. I really want to get my collateral back, right? So you would wish for the price not for the price, but for when you end your miner, it gets paid with your DAI, so you don't lose value of your genius, unless you go very, very long and you don't care, and you just care about just having genius no matter what. Now, on the upswing, you enter with the same 90 days miner, you enter at a certain price, and you got a really good deal from a stability pool. Let's say it's 1/3 under market condition, under market you came in, and you got your 100 million genie, whatever the case may be. You're very happy with it, but then you say, no one's actually paying my debt. So I would rather have more genie than get back my $1,000 of DAI. Well, neither of those conditions are up to you, but that's a strategy that you can actually consider, or you should consider the fact that depending on what market does, not market, open market, but like intent of coming in and sell to stability pool or buy more miners, all that, velocity of action on the stability pool that pumps and dumps the price. Somebody comes in, clears it out, somebody comes in, buys it, whatever, right? The so-called PSR rate. Then you just need to be aware of the fact that you can't bank on the fact that you will get 100% of your genie after you end your miner. It will depend whether your collateral has been, or your debt has been paid for or not, or variation thereof. If it's 20% paid, 80% not, then, it depends. But you really should expect that, much like it is on Uniswap, when you're trading a pair, you have so-called impermanent loss, where you make fees, but you end up with one or the other token if the market goes one direction or another. Here you have exactly the same thing or similar, right? Where you can't say that you will get 100% in Genie, nor can you say you're going to get 100% of collateral if things don't work out.
So it's kind of like a hybrid yield farm almost, right? Something like that?
Well, that's a liquidity pool for Uniswap. When you're creating a liquidity pool, you deposit a pair. Let's say it's USDC Genie. As a liquidity provider, you want two things. You want volume, people coming in and out, so you can actually earn fees, and you want the fees to the market to be relatively stable, not volatile to one side or another, unless you okay with getting one side or another, because if the market moves left, let's say, and you remove the liquidity, you get all USDC. If the market moves right, you remove the liquidity, you remove it all in Genie. Now, when USDC Genie pair, it's not as painful because USDC is always good because it's stable, and Genie is always good because it's price performant, right? But the fees you make either way, people come in and out. That's the regular liquidity pool. Here, similar things work, only the buying and selling doesn't make you fees. What makes you fees is the lockup collateral in the miner that kind of chugs along on its own, and you're not depending on how many people come in and trade your pair. But as far as redeeming time, this is where the left versus right market affects you, right? So it's similar in impermanent loss, but it's not similar in mechanism.
Yeah, it's pretty dope the way they thought of that. And so say I want to sell Genie. Say I unstake a stake and I want to sell Genie. I could sell to that stability pool if the price is where I want it to be, right? And that won't affect the price, or am I wrong?
What affects, so there are two things. What affects the price is the velocity of people who sell. If you've unlocked in the bull market and everybody's trying to sell, your price is going to go up before you can sell if you're not the first person or the second person. Like, further out on the curve you are, the less favorable you're going to be, right? Because that's the whole point of slowing down the redeems and whatnot. That's why people clean out, and that's when you come to a stability pool and you look at it and see, okay, that's not favorable because the price is too low for me. I'm going to have to wait. So the lowering of the offer price is because a lot of people have come in and sold. Now, if you are not in a raging bull when people are trying to destage, if you just like ending your miner, this is another Pumpamentals. Somebody was asking about Pumpamentals. Imagine that you end with 90 days ago, you've entered with 1 cent per Genie. You've served your 90 days, you unlock your Genie, you get 100 million of Genie back at 1 cent because that's where you entered. The price in the stability pool on the redeem side is 2. The price on the open side is also 2. You can sell to both, or you can sell to either one of them. The problem with the open, they're gonna charge a fee for selling. The good for the stability pool is you can come in, and if you have enough collateral, like not 17 DAI, you're gonna have a lot more. You can either wait for more DAI to show up there, for as many people actually show up and doing the miners by putting collateral in, or let's just say in perfect condition you have 2 cents Genie and plenty of liquidity and stability pool. What you do, you take 1 cent Genie and sell it back to the stability pool without tax, without liquidity slippage. So basically, you win on both sides. If the condition is right for the time when you unlock your miner, you've entered early and you've sold, meaning redeemed from the stability pool 90 days later, right? That's the best condition. The middle condition would be you've entered at 1 cent into collateral miner, you've served it, you've unlocked, got it 1 cent, got all the Genie back at 1 cent. and your stability pool is at I don't know, less than 1. No, probably not. Let's just say less than 1. You can either wait for stability pool to pump on the redeem side and do it, or you can seek opportunities to the stage on the open market if it's more favorable, or just hold until the price comes back up on the open market or stability pool. So, I mean, it's unknowable, right? You can't know what the price is going to do, but because the stability pool plays the price on the redeem side by saying however many redeemers came in, that's how I'm going to react to them. It may not be immediate that you can sell to it, but you may need to wait. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, I get it.
That's why we're saying
It's
the
the
stability
same. It's
pool.
the same as buying in. There's an arbitrage both ways: selling in, buying in.
Exactly. If you're patient and you don't mind holding Genie for a longer time, now I'll give you another one. If you want to sell it on the open market, you go to a stability pool, you enter a single side liquidity. Let's just say, I don't know, Genie is at 1 cent, and you say, okay, that's your price point to sell. You're cool with that. You go to Uniswap, but instead of selling like right at the market price, and let's just say you can't put a limit order. Let's just say it's straight out market order. You take whatever you're given, right? The slippage, the market price. What you can do, you can enter into Uniswap with single side liquidity, setting your price for Genie for 1.1 cent and say, okay, 1.1 is when I want to sell. So the next guy who comes into Uniswap says, all right, I want to buy 100 million of Genie and I don't care about slippage. He doesn't know about stability pool. He wants to go on the open market. So you lock up you're in a single side liquidity pool with 1.1 target, and that guy buys your liquidity. So when the guy buys your liquidity from Uniswap, he actually pays you the fees for buying your liquidity at 1.1. So you can do half to the stability pool if you want to seek that opportunity, or if you want to go single side liquidity to Uniswap, you can do that as well and earn fees. And so you don't dump the price of Genie if you go sell an open market in a single side liquidity because it's higher than the current market price. And there are different ways, but you not only you don't pay liquidity slippage when you're selling your 100 million Genie at 1.1 cent, you actually get paid by somebody buying it from you.
Yeah, that fucking stability pool is. I don't think I've seen anything like that yet.
Yeah, and we're in early days. The flywheel hasn't started working to the degree that it needs to, because the more people deposit, the more people actually redeem, the better the predictability. Like the AI part in the stability pool is just that. It's the predictability of outcome. Like if they can calculate the rate, and they can kind of say, all right, well, maybe that's going to be better. That's going to be, however it's going to be, it can be calculated further. So my understanding of what the devs did, they actually prototyped various market conditions. They threw a bunch of data at the stability pool, and they came up with the best optimized formula for when it works 60, 70, 80% of the time for everybody, right? On the plus side. So it's you're less affected by somebody coming in on the open market because you don't know what that person's intention is or when that person comes in. A stability pool actually manages all of that on both sides, right? I mean, it's a little wild to think that it's a private market. It's over the counter private market for the same thing you can trade on the open market, but here you have different opportunities. I'm not going to say good or bad. It's just different. At any given time, you may have better price, you may have worse price.
Hey, Shakes.
Yep. Hey, real quick, can I ask you a question about the stability pool? Yeah, go ahead. I can answer. Okay. You were saying earlier when the debt has been settled by someone, you get your collateral back, but if the debt has not been paid, you would just get Genius back, correct? Yes. No, wait, the other way around. The collateral, you get collateral back when the debt has not been paid, and Genius when it has been. And what do the people get who pay down the Genius debt? They're the redeemers. They get the collateral. So if you if you're looking at the app, you have redeem and deposit. Deposit is for miners, and redeem is for selling Genius into the stability pool and redeeming the collateral out of it. By collateral, I mean Ethereum or DAI or whatever it trades in the stability pool. Gotcha. Right, folks, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna disengage. You guys stay on if you want to, but I think me leaving not end the space, but we'll see. Thanks all. Appreciate it.